Hello everyone and welcome to another episode. Today we're going to discuss how to use auto-supporting in Lychee and how to actually make it work for you. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be a quick and dirty kind of like click the auto-support button and go, but it is going to give you a leg up on just basically using auto-supports. Anyway, I won't delay too much into the intro because I think it's important that we spend some time getting into the actual supporting stuff that I'm going to show you, and then we'll give you a little example of what some of the stuff will turn out like and how easy it can actually be to remove these supports at the end of the day. Here we go. Okay, so here's one of the miniatures that I used for this demonstration, and I'll show y'all how I set these up. Now, in a previous video, I explained that I have a trick where I use multiple layer heights to detect islands at multiple layer heights. And then I use that to, as I say, catch more islands, essentially. Got to catch them all, right? Anyway, to do this, what I do is I create multiple profiles for my resin. So I create one at 20 microns, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then I'll create one at the next layer height, which is 35, and then 50. Now, funnily enough, I use most of the same resin curing settings that I used to use for my Craftsman resin, but I am now actually using a new formula, which I want to say I kind of half came up with myself. Most of the models you're going to see in the demonstration are going to be proto gray, and it is kind of a mixed formulation of a few different resins to come up with what we've come up with, but it looks really good. Especially when printed at about 35 or better. So anyway, we start at 20, and then we will search the object using the island search. And this won't take long because these are very short objects. Also, the demonstration I want to show you is going to be really quick, and you guys are going to be impressed by how quickly you can support these models. And then I'll prove it to you by showing you how well they came out and how easy they are to remove. So when you're doing models of this type, miniatures, whatever, go with a light support setting because it's going to save you damage and it's going to be a lot easier to remove. Currently, the one I use is right here. Go ahead and pause the video and take a screenshot, whatever you want to do. That is how I do my lights. So the first thing we're going to do is go over to auto. We're going to make sure we're on light. Check all these boxes and go over to your structure. Make sure snap-on grid is turned on. And then you're going to want to make sure that you're using small, strong object or small object if it's even smaller. And then go ahead and click Generate Automatic Supports. And then now that we've already got the islands identified at this level, we're going to go back to islands, and then we're going to stick with light again, and we're going to say apply all. There's one island it could not support, so show me that one. Go. Now we're going to go up to our 35, and we're going to repeat this process. Search islands. Okay, then we're going to do that again. We're going to support all, and then we're going to go up to 50 and repeat that search again. And again, we're going to apply all. And that is pretty much all the items. Now we're going to check the proximities. 0. And I'm going to adjust my view so I can get a better look at the bottom. And what I'm going to do down here, keeping my structure on, is I'm going to create a little perimeter on the feet. Reason for this is because this is going to be the anchor point to the raft, and I want these to be relatively rigid on the bottom, but still something I can just snap right off. So put a little perimeter around each boot. And might add a support or two down here on the bottom of these little furs. And that is pretty much it, except for maybe one little support here and there. And then we are done. Let's take a look what that looks like. You can see decent amount of supports on the bottom, but for the rest of it, not too heavily supported. We've got our island supported with minis, a little mini on the chin. Everything else is pretty well balanced, so we look pretty good there. Now moving on to a more difficult type of object, we're going to look at the weapons. And the weapons are, they're always a little trickier because it depends on how many there are. You know, in this case, I was working with quite a lot of them. I think there's like 23 weapons and objects altogether. Yeah, you can see them there. We're just going to go ahead and focus on this great hammer. So again, we're going to go back to our prepare. We're going to go back down to 20. And then we're going to kind of do the same process again with this object. We're still using our light supports. And we're going to actually change our structure. So this one's going to be a small object instead of small, strong object. Go ahead and do the automatic. And then we still have a ton of islands, so we need to go to our islands. And go ahead and search. And almost done. There we go. Okay, support all. And then we repeat this process like we did last time. And again, these searches don't take long. The objects are pretty short. Okay. Now that object is pretty much done. I did not do another thing to these except for, well, actually, no, that's the lie. I added one extra support here on the edge where that hand is. Other than that, that was it. That's all I did for these. And these are pretty great. Now, if you want to do something a little thinner, like this axe, again, similar, I'm sorry, not even similar, the same concept applies. You're going to auto support it. You're going to go to your islands. And then you're going to repeat that for all the layers all the way up. Now on the axes, I do recall I actually added a row of supports that went straight down the bottom of the axe here like that, because I felt that it needed it. And I added one more peg there, but really not too much additional supporting. All right, and then one last thing to look at, because a lot of folks always like to get really clean looking bases when they do these types of things, is the bases. So let's take a look at the base parts. These are already supported. Now these were actually super easy. And I'm going to show you how easy these can be. So here's one that's done. Actually, here, wait. I'm going to take it out of its formation. I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to hide the original. And go to my prepare, and I'm going to delete those supports. Okay, so now with bases, when you first bring them in to Lychee, usually, most of these things usually will come in flat. In fact, here, let's see, reset. Yeah, they'll usually come in like that, except this one's lifted 5 off the plate. So usually what I do for bases, and I know I say don't angle things at 45 degrees. Bases are the one things you can. So I'll take that at about a 45-degree angle. I say about because I don't really care to be that specific. Doesn't seem to matter with objects this small sometimes, so I don't bother being that crazy about it. Then I'm going to go to my prepared tab, choose a raft. Again, I'm going to go with the shape wall, and I'm going to go to my support tab. Now for these, because it was a puck, I decided to do the structure was small object, or sorry, small strong object, and we used lights for the majority of the supports, but I actually changed this, and the reason I did it is because I was actually being extremely lazy. But there's a few ways you could do this that are actually just as good. So the way I did it was I actually put it up to ultra, and I hit generate automatic supports. This created a grid, the grid structure, the supports, and pretty much almost the perimeter. So that's one way you could do it. The other way you could do it is the way I did the rest of them, was by doing the support projection, changing that to crease, clicking the bottom, preview supports, make sure you go to light, and add. And then the only thing you have to do here is just go to structure and add your bracings. And there you go. Now, from here, the best thing for you to do would be to continue adding some small supports down here at the bottom, making sure you have good contact at the bottom contact point here. So we would just scroll up a little bit and then take a look at this from the bottom. And we've got some gaps here. So if we don't want any pancaking, what I suggest is adding a few small supports right around this area here where this is going to start. Because remember, the starting points are always the weakest points in the prints. So add a couple extra supports there. Again, all lights, nothing heavy. And we can add a few more as it begins there. And I think that should probably be good enough. The only other thing you're going to want to do, obviously, on this is check for islands. And we're going to do it the same way that we did the other pieces. So we'll go over islands. We can also check proximity, but that's fine. We'll go to islands. We'll check that again. Again, these aren't very big objects, so you're talking maybe like 30 seconds to do an island sweep, even if you're doing it at real, which is what I do all my island sweeps at. And you'll see this will find no islands there. Again, search this at 35. No island there either. And then we'll go with the 50. And I'm pretty sure if the other ones didn't find islands, we're not going to find any at 50. Great. And of course, we know we're printing at 35, so I'll bring the step back down to 35. And we can do our scroll up here and just check to make sure that everything looks good as the print starts. Now, funnily enough, we did our island checks, but I still see an island. What do you guys think? I think that's an island. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the tip of some of these supports because I feel like that might be part of the issue. And now we should have better contact here. There we go, look at that, much better. And that will ensure you'll have a nice solid start of that print. And then you're just going to want to repeat that process for each one of the different bases, and you can do what I did, and you can duplicate them after you're done. I actually only had 3 unique bases, so once I finished each one, I was able to just copy them on over. Anyway, enough of the showing you how to do it, seeing as I've shown you how to do it 3 times now. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the footage of what this stuff looks like when it comes out. Alright, so this is the footage of me removing them from the build plates. Not the most exciting part, which is why I sped this up the most. But I just wanted you all to see every aspect of this, so you know I'm not, no BS in here. This is legit. So using all the same method that I showed you for every one of these pieces. Some of the rafts differ just because the room, the weapons, I didn't use the wall one, the shape wall. Didn't have the room for it. The other ones I used the shape wall just because it's, you know, the convenient one. Now as these get cleaned up here, I'm going to show you how easy these supports are going to come off. So these have just been cleaned with alcohol, and yeah, I know there's some hair on there, but whatever. My workshop sometimes gets a little dirty, so there might be some hair. Probably mine. Don't worry about that. Now, we take the base, simply squeeze the edges. You're just going to squeeze and pull. And that's going to pop this thing right off. There you go. Again, I'll demonstrate on another one. Squeeze and pull. Very easy to do. You'll have all those removed in no time. For the characters, the miniatures themselves, what I do is I pull on the edges of the shape wall, pulling that away, or sometimes breaking the pieces off, and just wiggling the miniature free until it gets loose. And there you go. Weapons are a little different. You kind of have to peel them. So usually go for the edges first. Try to peel that away, and then wiggle it free from the bottom. And sometimes they stick a little harder, but for the most part, pretty easy. Not as easy as getting it to focus. There we go. And another weapon. Again, I'm speeding this footage up just because of the fact that it doesn't necessarily need to be slowed down. You don't need to see every tiny little bit of this, but you get the idea of how simple this actually is to remove all the support work. It looks like a lot. The grid structure and the bracings and all that makes it look very heavy and dense, but it's very easy. Again, bases, super easy. Squeeze, pops right off. Done. Squeeze. I mean, couldn't ask for better. And the bottoms are nice and round. Everything's nice and set the way it should be. There's another one of those axes. Just pop that right off. And there's that banner. Now this one was a little tricky because that bracing structure in the back did come on a little tough. made the whole back structure a little tough, so I had to wiggle it a little bit. What I did was I actually grabbed the bottom there where those two posts are, where my hand is, and I kind of wiggled it back and forth until I could hear the sides kind of popping away on each side, and eventually most of it did get free, as you'll see here in just a sec. And then when we're done looking at all the support removal, we'll move on to the final show, which will show all of the pieces after they've been cured, and they're, for the most part, they're cleaned, except for maybe some dust and some particles and stuff that get stuck to them, when they go through the wash and whatnot. But for the most part, they're good to go. Yeah, like I said, this one was a sticker. This was actually one of the hardest ones to pop off, but there you go. Still got it, no problem. Again, the weapons are all pretty easy. Had little to no issue removing all of those. It's just some of them had to wiggle free. They will get entangled up in the supports a little bit, so you got to kind of wiggle them loose. That is a thing. Like this one. And I'll show you a couple more of the miniature characters. Again, what I do is I peel back, like I kind of pop it out. And sometimes those will pop away. And then just kind of peel it away and then just wiggle the miniature free. And these miniatures have some pretty fragile parts, but again, the resin mixture that I'm using is pretty sturdy. And I'll demonstrate that again. So again, we just kind of peel that away. There's another one. Again, this is very easy support removal, especially for miniatures. And a lot of people gripe about that. They're like, oh, I don't want to clip the stuff. I want to just be able to pop the supports off. Great. If you're using Lychee and you're using the grid support system with the bracing system and using auto supports, and you have miniatures about this size, maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, you can use this system and you will get these consistent results. And I probably shouldn't even be telling people this, because they're going to be like, what? Auto supports work? It's like, well, yeah, they do. As long as you understand how to use them. Now here we have them cleaned up a little bit better. There's still some mini support stuck on them and stuff like that that I haven't completely cleaned, but this is like the alcohol has been kind of dried off a little bit. And they've been run through the cure. As you can see, the quality of them is really nice. They came out great. Everything looks wonderful. The weapons look good. Again, these are kind of hard to focus on, so excuse the camera for a second. It will eventually show you how cool the texture looks on that axe. These are, for some reason, because there's so much going on behind it, I think. There we go. And we'll take a look at a couple more of the miniatures. Here's the one with the mohawk. You'll see there's still a couple mini supports that are stuck onto it. Nothing you can't just pop off with an X-Acto or a toothbrush or something like that. And there's some of the bases. They came out really nice texture, really nice detail. And everything came out good. Anyway, if you guys want to see more show comparisons, stuff like this, where we talk about, using tools that I probably would never have recommended before, giving away all my secrets using auto supports, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about using auto supports for anything, to be honest. As someone who does support work and pre-support work, I don't normally like to use auto supports. But I will say that Lychee's newer version and the grid support system with the new bracing system works really well, and I've actually reconsidered using it in my workflows for some stuff like this, like miniatures, tiny parts, where I can trust it to pretty much do a decent job with making sure that it's going to support the object well enough. And in this case, as you can see here, these objects all came out just fine, no problems, no issues, no deviations. I mean, even the little tiny hands and stuff like that printed just fine. So it works really well so long as you do the method that I showed you. Run through those different layer heights. Go from your 20 to your 35 to your 50. Check your islands at those different layer heights. Make sure that you consistently look at things like starting point, where your supports are going to hit that first couple of bits of material. That's super important. So all those things need to be considered. Going through different layer heights, checking your islands at different layer heights, making sure that you use the support structure that I showed you, so that way you're getting these consistent results. Now, again, maybe you want to go a little tougher. Maybe you don't want to go that tough. Maybe you want to practice. You want to experiment, try different supports. Go for it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Totally go for it. That is your option to do. Now, what I will suggest is getting a really good resin, because that's going to let you play around with that even more. The reason we experiment so much and we have a resin mixture that we're now using is because we just wanted something better. Anyway, I hope this episode was great, educational and informational for all of you, and I really appreciate everyone that joins us and watches these episodes. We'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.